Have you ever wondered why some women, without a single calculated move, seem to occupy every corner of a man's mind? They are not just passing interests. They become an intoxicating enigma he simply cannot shake. It starts with a flicker of curiosity, a sudden, sharp realization that he is replaying a conversation from 3 days ago, or analyzing the way she looked at a painting, or wondering what she is doing in this exact second. This is not about grand gestures. It is not about the theater of seduction. It is a far more subtle, invisible frequency. She exists in his thoughts like a recurring melody, persistent and impossible to ignore. Why does she linger? Why does the memory of her presence carry more weight than the reality of others? It is a magnetic pull, a gravity that defies the usual rules of attraction. Today, we peel back the layers of this psychological dance to understand exactly why some women become the permanent architects of a man's obsession. Let us be clear about what this is not. This is not about the hollow theater of playing games or the calculated maneuvers of manipulation. When a man finds himself unable to look away, it is not because a woman has mastered the art of tactical deception. It is because she has mastered the art of being herself. True mystery is not a facade constructed to lure or entrap. It is a byproduct of profound self-possession. It is the quiet confidence of a woman who knows exactly who she is, and more importantly, who she is not. She does not need to broadcast her intentions or seek validation from the room to feel complete. This is where the psychological shift occurs. When a woman operates from a place of genuine emotional intelligence, she stops being a puzzle to be solved and becomes a landscape to be explored. Her mystery is simply the depth of her character, a reflection of an inner world that is vibrant, self-sustaining, and entirely her own. She is not hiding behind a veil. She is simply not offering her entire self as an immediate, digestible commodity. This authenticity creates a gravitational pull that no amount of manufactured intrigue could ever replicate. It is the difference between a performance and a presence. One is fleeting, the other is enduring. Now, we must dismantle the most persistent myth in the architecture of attraction. There is a widespread, deeply ingrained belief that to be desired, one must be constantly available, constantly giving, and constantly present. We are taught that visibility equals value, and that silence is a void to be filled with immediate responses. But psychology reveals a starkly different truth. When a woman makes herself a permanent fixture in a man's digital and physical space, she inadvertently signals that her time, her attention, and her life are not her own. She becomes a predictable constant, a background hum that loses its ability to surprise. This is the death of intrigue. By constantly offering her presence, she removes the space required for desire to take root. The human mind is not wired to cherish what is always within reach. It is wired to seek, to pursue, and to value what is not easily obtained. We are about to strip away these misconceptions, layer by layer, to reveal why the most captivating women are those who understand the power of their own absence. Let us look directly at the male psyche. Why does the mind fixate on the elusive? It is not a predatory instinct for conquest, but a fundamental cognitive drive for discovery. The human brain is wired to solve problems and to pursue goals that offer a genuine reward. When a man encounters a woman who is not easily obtained, who possesses an internal world he cannot immediately map, his brain shifts into a state of high engagement. This is the dopamine loop of the chase. He is not hunting a prize. He is seeking to understand a value that is clearly present but not yet fully revealed. This challenge triggers a primal need to rise to the occasion, to prove himself worthy of her attention. It is a psychological test of his own limits. When a woman is fully self-possessed, her presence is not a given, it is a variable. This uncertainty forces his mind to work, to analyze, and to invest. He does not just want her, he wants to understand the depth of the woman who stands before him. Now, let us examine the specific mechanisms that sustain this fixation. We are creatures of habit, yet we are fundamentally drawn to novelty. A woman who is consistently predictable, whose emotional landscape is a flat, unchanging plane, quickly loses her intrigue. This is the silent killer of attraction. When a man can map her reactions before they occur, when her responses are always the same, the mystery evaporates. She becomes a known quantity, and the human mind, once it believes it has solved a puzzle, stops looking at the pieces. This predictability is a psychological dead end. It signals a lack of depth, a stagnation that prevents any real connection from deepening. But consider the alternative. A woman who possesses a spectrum of emotions and reactions, not in a volatile or chaotic way, but in a nuanced, authentic manner. She becomes a fascinating study. She does not react to every stimulus with the same expected tone. She shifts, she surprises, she maintains a quiet composure in one moment and engages with fiery intensity in the next. This is not about playing games or being hot and cold. It is about being a multidimensional being. It is about the presence of emotional contrast. This creates a dynamic tension, a constant, silent question in his mind. What will she reveal next? Consider the woman who operates with fierce independence in her career, yet exhibits profound tenderness in a moment of shared intimacy. This is the multidimensional woman. She does not sacrifice her strength to be vulnerable, nor does she hide her vulnerability to appear strong. She holds both facets simultaneously. This creates a powerful, dynamic tension that keeps a man's mind constantly engaged. He is not observing a static image, he is witnessing a living, breathing complexity. When she stands firm in her professional goals, he respects her resolve. When she lowers her guard in a private, quiet moment, he feels the weight of that trust. This shift is not a contradiction, it is a depth of character. He is constantly asking himself, which side of her will I encounter next? This uncertainty is the engine of his obsession. Because she is never just one thing, he can never fully categorize her. He is perpetually drawn to the next layer, the next reaction, the next revelation. The multidimensional woman remains an enigma because she is complete within herself, leaving him to navigate the shifting landscape of her personality. Now, we must confront the fallacy of constant availability. In a world of instant digital connection, many believe that being always present is the key to being desired. Psychology suggests the opposite. When a woman is perpetually accessible, her presence becomes a baseline expectation rather than a rare event. Her time loses its weight. It becomes a commodity in surplus, and the human mind, by its very nature, devalues what is abundant. Consider the woman who does not respond to every notification the moment it arrives. This is not a tactic of malice, but a reflection of a life that is genuinely full. She has goals, passions, and commitments that exist independently of any man. When she finally offers her attention, it carries the impact of a deliberate choice. It is a gift, not an obligation. This scarcity triggers a primal mechanism of pursuit. Because her time is not easily obtained, it becomes a target for his focus. He begins to measure her worth by the effort required to earn her engagement. This is the shift from passive interest to active desire. When she protects her boundaries and maintains her own world, she is not playing a game. She is signaling that her presence is a high-value asset. Contrast the modern obsession with digital immediacy against the woman who remains detached from her screen. In an era where every notification demands an instant response, she chooses to remain unburdened by the constant ping of digital noise. She does not live in the glow of a device, waiting for a signal to validate her day. When she is out in the world, she is fully present. A man observing this notices a stark difference. He sees a woman who is not performing for an audience or seeking approval. She is immersed in her own reality, whether she is reading in a quiet corner or walking through a crowded street with a singular, focused intent. This physical disconnect from the digital grid creates a vacuum that he feels compelled to fill. He realizes that her attention is not a commodity. Because she is not constantly broadcasting her life, he cannot predict her next move. This absence of constant data creates a magnetic pull. Her silence in the digital space becomes a loud signal of her independence, drawing him in with the promise of a connection that is rare and entirely offline. Beyond the digital silence lies the bedrock of her presence, unwavering boundaries. Many fear that setting limits will alienate others, but the opposite is true. A woman who defines her own terms communicates that her time and energy are not for public consumption. She does not compromise her values to smooth over a conflict, or to accommodate a demand that does not align with her goals. When she says no, she does so with a calm, final clarity that leaves no room for negotiation. This is not about being difficult, it is about being anchored. A man recognizes this as a sign of an unshakable internal compass. He sees that she is not a vessel waiting to be filled by his expectations, but a sovereign entity with her own direction. This realization shifts the dynamic of the relationship instantly. He stops seeing her as a person to be molded and starts seeing her as a force to be respected. Her boundaries act as a filter, naturally pushing away those who seek easy access, while drawing in those who value depth. By refusing to bend for the sake of convenience, she commands a level of regard that constant compliance could never earn. She is not an obstacle to be overcome, she is a standard to be met. This strength of character creates a profound magnetic tension, forcing him to elevate his own conduct. Consider the stark divide between a woman who possesses a self-sustaining life and one who constantly molds herself to fit a man's desires. The latter acts like a mirror, reflecting his moods, his opinions, and his preferences back to him. She is always available, always agreeable, and always eager to please. While this might seem like an easy path to connection, it creates a vacuum of intrigue. Because she lacks a strong sense of self, she offers no resistance, no unique perspective, and no hidden depths to explore. A man may initially enjoy the convenience of this compliance, but the fascination quickly evaporates. He cannot be obsessed with a puzzle that has already been solved. In contrast, the woman who maintains her own goals, her own circle of friends, and her own distinct opinions remains a vibrant, separate entity. She does not shift her shape to accommodate his presence. When they meet, it is a collision of two complete worlds rather than the absorption of one into the other. She challenges him because she is not defined by his approval. This independence signals a depth of character that he cannot simply categorize or dismiss. By refusing to be molded, she forces him to engage with her as an equal, keeping his interest sharp and his curiosity alive. She is not a reflection of his needs. She is a reality he must work to understand. Beyond the strength of her boundaries lies the quiet, formidable power of emotional self-control. This is not the suppression of feeling, but the mastery of it. A woman who commands her internal state does not react impulsively to every challenge or slight. When a situation turns volatile, she does not mirror the chaos. Instead, she observes, processes, and responds with a measured, intentional clarity. This composure is a rare, grounding force. While others might erupt in frustration or seek immediate external validation to soothe their nerves, she remains steady. Her calm is not passive. It is an active, deliberate choice that signals a deep well of resilience. She does not look to a man to regulate her moods, nor does she allow her internal equilibrium to be dictated by the shifting tides of his behavior. This self-mastery creates an aura of wisdom that is immediately palpable. It forces those around her to slow down, to think before they speak, and to match her level of dignity. By refusing to be swept away by unfiltered emotion, she becomes an anchor in a world that is often frantic and unpredictable. This capacity to remain centered, even when the pressure mounts, is a hallmark of a woman who possesses a profound, unshakable sense of self. Imagine a room where the air is thick with rising tension. Voices sharpen, accusations fly, and the collective pulse of the group quickens as people scramble to defend their positions. In this environment, most would mirror the agitation, their faces flushed, their words rapid and defensive. But she remains a static point of clarity. When a direct challenge is leveled at her, she does not flinch or raise her voice to match the fray. She pauses. She allows the silence to stretch, forcing the room to adjust to her pace rather than the other way around. Her eyes remain steady, her posture relaxed but alert, and her response, when it finally comes, is precise and devoid of unnecessary heat. She addresses the issue, not the emotion. This is the moment where the man watching her sees the shift. He witnesses the stark contrast between her composure and the frantic energy of everyone else. It is not just that she is calm, it is that her calm is contagious. The human mind abhors a vacuum. It is wired to seek patterns, to fill in the blanks, and to complete the picture. This is the core of the mysterious woman's influence. She does not lay all her cards on the table in a single, exhaustive display. Instead, she reveals herself in deliberate, measured layers. She shares just enough to ignite curiosity, to hint at the vast, unexplored depths beneath the surface, but she always stops short of total exposure. By withholding the full narrative of her past or the entirety of her inner motivations, she creates a space that the man feels compelled to fill with his own imagination. He begins to project his own desires and questions onto that silence. This is not a game of secrecy, it is a sophisticated understanding of how intimacy is built. Because she does not offer an immediate download of her life story, she forces him to engage in a continuous process of discovery. Every conversation becomes a new piece of a puzzle he is desperate to solve. The more she holds back, the more he leans in, driven by the addictive, cognitive need to understand the woman who remains just out of reach. Consider the woman who treats her life like an open book, broadcasting every fleeting thought, every past regret, and every current plan to anyone within earshot. She leaves nothing to the imagination, stripping away the mystery by offering a complete, immediate download of her identity. There is no room for the man to wonder, no space for him to explore, and ultimately, no incentive for him to lean in. In stark contrast, the woman who understands the power of a private world holds her cards close. She possesses an inner sanctuary, a private garden of thoughts, memories, and reflections that she does not feel compelled to share with the world. When she is silent, she is not empty. She is simply occupied by her own internal landscape. She might be sitting in a crowded room, yet her gaze drifts, signaling that she is currently engaged in a conversation with herself. This subtle withdrawal is not a rejection, but a clear boundary. It signals that her mind is a space that must be earned, not a public utility. By keeping parts of herself tucked away, she forces the man to recognize that she is a whole, self-contained entity. He cannot simply consume her presence because he realizes there is always more beneath the surface. This creates a magnetic tension as he finds himself drawn to the parts of her she chooses to keep hidden. Then there is the quiet, undeniable power of confidence that does not seek validation. Many people move through the world constantly asking for confirmation of their worth, their choices, or their presence. They fish for compliments, wait for approval, and rely on the reactions of others to calibrate their own sense of self. This behavior creates a heavy, invisible labor for the man involved. He becomes a constant source of reassurance, a mirror that must always reflect back a positive image to keep her steady. But the mysterious woman operates from a different center. Her confidence emanates from within, built on a foundation of self-knowledge that requires no external scaffolding. She knows her own value, and she does not need a man to articulate it for her. When she enters a room, she does not look to him for permission to be there or for praise to feel secure. This radical self-sufficiency is profoundly liberating for the man. It frees him from the exhausting duty of propping up her self-esteem. He is no longer an emotional caretaker, he is an equal participant. Because she does not demand his constant validation, he finds himself offering it spontaneously, purely because he is genuinely impressed by her strength. She does not need him to complete her, and that is exactly why he finds himself wanting to be part of her world. Her internal compass is fixed, and that stability makes her an anchor rather than a weight. Finally, we must address the delicate art of subtle detachment. This is not about being cold or distant. It is about maintaining a healthy emotional perimeter that prevents the relationship from becoming a suffocating trap. Many people mistakenly believe that true intimacy requires total fusion, where two lives collapse into one singular, indistinguishable entity. But this enmeshment is the death of mystery. When a woman loses herself in a man, her own identity dissolves, leaving him with nothing new to discover. The mysterious woman, however, understands that connection is most vibrant when it is shared between two whole, independent lives. She is fully present when she is with him, offering her undivided attention, yet she does not lose her own center. She maintains her own interests, her own goals, and her own sense of self that exists entirely outside of the relationship. This subtle detachment signals that she is a complete person, not a satellite orbiting his life. It creates a dynamic where he feels he is joining her. Now, we must turn our gaze toward the male psyche and observe how it processes these subtle, elusive cues. Men are fundamentally wired for problem solving, for the pursuit of tangible goals, and for the satisfaction of uncovering hidden truths. When he encounters a woman who presents an intriguing, multi-layered puzzle, his brain does not simply register interest, it activates a powerful cognitive shift. The uncertainty she embodies acts as a catalyst, triggering the reward centers of his mind. He is no longer just observing, he is hunting for meaning. This is not about manipulation, but about the natural human drive for discovery. As he attempts to map her emotional landscape, he finds that the standard markers of predictability are missing. Every time he feels he has reached a conclusion, a new facet of her personality emerges, forcing him to recalibrate his understanding. This creates a persistent dopamine loop, a cycle of engagement that keeps his focus locked firmly on her. He begins to view her not as a static object, but as a dynamic, evolving environment. The tension rises because his instincts demand a resolution that she does not provide. He is no longer just attracted. He is mentally captivated, trapped in a state of high-stakes curiosity. The man begins to treat her presence as a complex equation, searching for the variables that dictate her reactions. He watches for patterns in her speech, her silences, and her choices, expecting to find the predictable rhythm of a standard interaction. But the puzzle refuses to resolve. Just as he believes he has identified a core trait, she shifts, revealing a different facet that contradicts his previous assessment. This is the moment the internal friction intensifies. His brain, designed to classify and organize, finds no stable ground to stand upon. He tries to anticipate her next move, but his projections consistently miss the mark. The frustration of this failure does not drive him away. Instead, it acts as a powerful stimulant for his focus. He stops looking for the exit and starts digging deeper into the labyrinth. Every unanswered question becomes a new target, a new mystery to unravel. He is no longer casually interested. He is locked in a state of hypervigilance, his mind constantly scanning for clues that remain just out of reach. The realization that she cannot be figured out does not bring closure, but rather a profound, unsettling clarity. He is chasing a target that is perpetually moving. This is where the biological machinery takes over. The brain, starved for the resolution it cannot find, begins to release dopamine in anticipation of the next discovery. Every time she offers a glimpse of her inner world, his reward centers fire, reinforcing the behavior of pursuit. He is no longer chasing a person, he is chasing the chemical hit that comes with every new piece of information. This creates a powerful, addictive loop. The uncertainty of her next reaction acts as a variable ratio reinforcement schedule, the most potent form of conditioning known to the human mind. He cannot predict when the next reward will come, so he remains hyper-focused, scanning for any sign of her intent. His brain treats the mystery as a high-stakes problem that must be solved to achieve equilibrium. Yet, the more he invests, the more the value of the target increases. He is locked in a feedback loop where the effort itself becomes the source of his fixation. The chase becomes self-sustaining, independent of any external encouragement. He is not just thinking about her, he is biologically compelled to continue the pursuit. The loop tightens, transforming interest into a relentless, internal drive. The focus of his pursuit now shifts inward. He stops merely observing her and begins to audit his own actions, measuring them against the high bar she sets without even trying. He asks himself if his current approach is sufficient, if his words carry the weight she demands, and if his presence is truly additive to her world. This is the moment the dynamic changes from a simple hunt to a rigorous test of his own character. He feels the pressure to perform, not because she asks it of him, but because he perceives her as a standard of excellence. He starts to refine his communication, stripping away the trivial to offer something more substantial. He monitors his own reactions, curbing his impulses to ensure he meets her with the same composure she displays. The challenge is no longer just about solving the puzzle of her personality. It is about proving he is a worthy companion for such a depth of character. His mind no longer operates in the present tense. It exists entirely within the architecture of her personality. He begins to map her reactions, cataloging her shifts in tone and her moments of silence, attempting to build a reliable model of her inner world. Yet, every time he believes he has found a pattern, she introduces a new variable. A casual comment reveals a hidden depth of knowledge. A brief moment of vulnerability contradicts his assumption of her total independence. He is trapped in a mental labyrinth of his own making, where every corner turned reveals a new, unexpected facet. He replays their conversations, not to analyze his own performance, but to search for the hidden meaning in her phrasing. His focus narrows until the world outside their interaction fades into a dull, irrelevant background. He is mentally captivated, his thoughts weaving through the rich tapestry of her character like a thread that cannot find its end. He tries to synthesize her traits into a coherent whole, but the image remains fluid, constantly changing shape. This cognitive dissonance is not a source of frustration, but of intense, relentless fascination. He finally abandons the attempt to reach a conclusion. The realization hits him with the force of a physical weight. She is not a destination he can arrive at, but a horizon that recedes the closer he gets. He stops trying to force her into a definitive shape, letting go of the need to categorize her traits or predict her next move. The frantic energy of his earlier analysis gives way to a quiet, steady awe. He begins to see that her complexity is not a barrier to entry, but the very substance of their connection. Each day is a new chapter, and he is no longer the author trying to write the ending, but a reader captivated by a narrative that refuses to be finished. He finds a strange, intoxicating peace in this incompleteness. The story of who she is unfolds in real time, through shared glances, sudden shifts in perspective, and the quiet spaces between their words. He stops looking for the final piece of the puzzle because he understands that the puzzle is meant to remain unsolved. This shift changes everything. The shift is no longer just in his thoughts. It is in the very way he experiences the world. When he is with her, the air feels charged, vibrating with a potential that he cannot quite define but feels in his marrow. She makes him feel sharper, more alive, as if her presence acts as a catalyst for his own dormant ambitions. He finds himself questioning his own limits, spurred on by the quiet, steady confidence she radiates. It is not that she pushes him, but that her mere existence challenges him to rise to a higher standard of being. He feels a profound sense of curiosity that extends beyond her, bleeding into his own life, making him look at his own goals with renewed intensity. This is the true power of the imprint she leaves behind. It is a lingering resonance, a hum in his consciousness that remains even when she is not in the room. The mark she leaves on his soul is permanent, a quiet, indelible signature that redefines his understanding of connection, leaving him forever altered. The realization settles into his bones. She is not a book he can finish, but a landscape he will explore for a lifetime. Just when he believes he has mapped the contours of her mind, she reveals a new facet, a hidden depth that catches him entirely off guard. It might be a sudden, sharp insight into a complex problem, or a quiet, vulnerable admission that shifts his entire perspective on her strength. These moments of discovery are not mere surprises, they are the heartbeat of his fascination. He watches her navigate the world, seeing how she balances her fierce independence with a capacity for profound tenderness, and he realizes that her mystery is a living, breathing entity. She never repeats herself. She never settles into a predictable rhythm. This constant, subtle evolution keeps him tethered to her, not by force, but by the sheer gravity of her character. He finds himself looking at her with fresh eyes, even after hours of conversation, as if seeing her for the first time again. She is an unforgettable force because she refuses to be static. She is an endless well. He finally sees the truth that had been hidden in plain sight. All the intrigue, the subtle shifts, and the quiet boundaries were never a calculated performance. They were simply the natural architecture of a woman who knows exactly who she is. He looks back at his previous attempts to label her behavior as a game, and he realizes how small those thoughts were. There is no trickery here, no hidden agenda, and no manufactured allure. Her mystery is not a veil she pulls over her face. It is the sheer depth of a life lived with absolute, unwavering self-awareness. She does not need to be mysterious to be seen. She is mysterious because she is substantial. He watches her move through a room, unbothered by the eyes upon her, and he understands that her gravity comes from the fact that she is anchored within herself. She is not waiting for his approval to exist, nor is she shaping her edges to fit his expectations. This is the final, undeniable revelation. Her essence is not a puzzle to be solved, but a reality to be respected. He stops trying to decode her and starts appreciating the weight of her presence. She is a woman of substance, and in that realization, the last of his confusion dissolves into a profound, quiet clarity. The dynamic shifts entirely. He no longer views her time as a resource to be claimed, but as a gift to be honored. Because she has built a life so rich and self-sustaining, her decision to share a single hour with him carries a weight that nothing else can match. He watches her move through her own day, focused on her goals and her passions, and he feels a surge of genuine respect. There is no need for her to fill his voids, because she is already full. This is the ultimate realization. Her presence is not a commodity he can demand, but a privilege he earns through his own growth and his ability to honor her autonomy. He stops the frantic pursuit of her attention. Instead, he finds himself standing in the space she creates, grateful for the moments she chooses to bridge the gap between their two worlds. She is not a prize to be won, but a person to be met. When she turns her focus toward him, the intensity of that connection feels earned, grounded in the reality that she could be anywhere else, doing anything else, yet she is here. He recognizes this as the highest form of intimacy. The journey concludes where it began, within the self. The realization is clear. The true enigma is not a series of calculated moves or a veil of silence. It is the byproduct of a life built on solid ground. When a woman turns her focus inward, cultivating her own passions, her own boundaries, and her own unwavering sense of worth, she stops needing to perform mystery. She simply becomes it. This is the invitation. Do not chase the attention of others. Chase the development of your own character. Build a life so vibrant, so self-sustaining, and so deeply fulfilling that your presence becomes a natural gravity. The mystery is not a facade you wear for an audience. It is the depth of a person who is complete, who understands her own value, and who refuses to dilute her essence for the sake of easy validation. When you stop trying to be understood and start focusing on being authentic, you create a space that others can only enter by rising to meet you. This is the ultimate power. It is the quiet, unshakable confidence of a woman who knows her own worth. You are not a puzzle to be solved. You are a reality to be experienced. The final step in this transformation is the most liberating of all, recognizing that your depth is not a burden, but a filter. When you live with such profound self-possession, you naturally distance yourself from those who seek only the surface. You stop settling for the fleeting interest of the casual observer. Instead, you open your life to the rare individual who possesses the emotional maturity to appreciate the complexity of who you are. This is not about exclusivity for the sake of ego. It is about alignment. A man who is capable of appreciating true depth will not be intimidated by your independence or your boundaries. He will be drawn to them. He will view your inner world as a landscape worth exploring, not a puzzle to be conquered. He will respect your time, honor your autonomy, and cherish the layers you choose to reveal. This is the ultimate clarity. By holding yourself to this standard, you do not just attract a partner, you attract a peer. You move through the world with the quiet, steady power of someone who knows exactly what she brings to the table. You are no longer waiting for validation, because you are the source of your own worth. You are no longer chasing, because you are the destination. Walk forward with this truth. Build your life, guard your peace, and remain the enigma that only the worthy can truly understand.